It's a big week for us here at LifeSource.
It is. It's a really big week, and you have to do it by yourself.
That's true. We're going to 2 services on Sunday, and this guy here in just a little while today is going to be getting on a plane and going to Uganda. So I'm not sure if I would rather be here or rather be there. I'm not sure which way that is.
Well, 16 hours after my flight, I'll let you know which one I would rather be
16
doing.
hours on a plane is going to be a long, long day. But we are seriously praying that you guys have a fantastic trip and that the Lord just really ministers through you there. So be praying for him and Krista and Chris Heron as they go on this trip to represent our church there in Uganda. But while they are gone, this coming Sunday, we go to 2 services. And it's an 8:30 service and a 10:30 service, and we're really excited about it.
We are, and obviously we've seen that there is still a big need. Anytime you roll out a new service, all the departments have to still be staffed and all that. And the worship one, serve one model that we're picking up here at LifeSource is definitely something we want you to plug into. In the children's ministry, there's a great need in the children's ministry to facilitate helping. And there's several different areas they can help in. Sometimes it's just being oversight to make sure the kids are not hurting themselves. And sometimes it's a teaching aspect or a craft. But there's a lot of areas in the kids department specifically that we really need you guys to sign up in the lobby, and there's a whole list of ministries. The coffee bar, which everybody loves coffee. We know because we go through a lot of it here at LifeSource. So the coffee, the welcome home, the people seaters, the Ignite Children's Ministry, which is the 1st grade through 6th grade area. They need help. We're growing in that area. I think there were like 51 kids this last Sunday in there. So really important that we get some help in that room as well.
Yeah, let me tell you what to expect on Sunday. The services at 8:30 and 10:30. Both services are identical. Same worship, same message, everything the same. At 8:30, there will be children's classes for those that are below 1st grade, nursery through preschool. They will meet at 8:30. There will not be the children's church for the elementary age during 8:30. That will only be during the 10:30 hour. But everything else is the same. All of our welcome home ministries are the same. The coffee bar is the same. Everything works just like it does that you've been used to at 10:30. It's just moved up until 8:30. So if you've been one of those that when we moved into this building that you've been missing that 8:30 hour, well, this is your day. I mean, this coming Sunday we start, and we are really looking forward to it. And we're just grateful that the Lord is bringing people to us, Caleb, which created this need for us to be able to offer this service. So we encourage you to get plugged in. If maybe you've not served in one of our Sunday morning areas because you didn't really want to miss church, now you don't have to. You can worship one service, serve in the other service, and that information is available at the Welcome Home Center in the lobby. Today, Caleb, we have been given questions, and usually you all are used to us doing something on the more humorous, silly side.
No wigs today.
No wigs today, nothing bizarre today, but just some spiritual growth questions. And we're just going to ask ourselves, each other, a couple of questions, and because I think it's important to know that we're on the same journey as you are. The same things that God is doing in your life, He's also doing in our life. And there are certain things that we are impacted by, just like you're impacted by them. So Caleb, in your life, have you had a great mountaintop experience at some point in your life, and how that experience that you had has led you to deal with the struggles and the difficult times that you have faced in your life?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I've had several of them in my life, but probably one of the most memorable ones that I've had was actually not long after I met your daughter, and your family, my now brother-in-law and another brother-in-law were doing a men's ministry called Boot Camp. And it's a weekend where you get real intensive with a lot of different men, and it's a really spiritual driven, really look into what's going on in your life. You can't share a whole lot about it because it's part of the experience, but I can remember, being encouraged to go, and I go before I'm married to your daughter, and so there's a little bit of fear in that, future brother-in-laws and all of that. But going through that weekend and watching, like, God just, for me, really unlocked a lot of doors. And the thing that stuck with me, that really came out in that whole weekend, is that, I am enough.
Yeah.
That God had given me the tools that I needed to do the ministry that I was equipped to do.
Yeah.
That was just a real big question in my life of, do I really matter? Do I really have the ability to do the things that I felt God calling me to do? And that weekend, just through a bunch of men putting you in some uncomfortable positions and allowing God to speak, was really a moment of seeing God show up. And so now today, anytime there are days where I still wonder, like, as we're growing and we're stretching, there's still some days where I'm like, oh, can I really handle this?
Yeah.
And I can really go back to that moment of where God, very clearly spoke to me, you're enough for what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's awesome moments when God reveals those things to you.
It was. So, but, your turn. So and this is a great one. I mean, I've heard this question posed in several different ways, but have you ever, had a piece of advice that just really, when it was given to you, just really stuck with you and really changed your life? And if so, what was it?
I have, and it wasn't necessarily spoken in a form of advice, but it was a statement that someone made one time. And I was in a festival setting, and there was a musician actually that made this statement in between songs. And she said, God has many servants, but he doesn't have many friends. And coming out of a background that at that moment in my life that I was coming out of, where everything was so performance driven and what you could achieve and what you could produce, I had never allowed myself to consider the fact that God just wanted to be a friend, that I could have that level of intimacy with God. We read in the Bible where Abraham was considered to be a friend of God, but we blow right over that and not make it personal. And that moment, that statement, set me on a course of revitalizing my entire approach to ministry, my entire approach to my walk with God, and really my entire endeavor into allowing intimacy and worship to be a lifestyle and not just an event that we went to be a part of. So that was one of those impactful moments.
Boy, that's really a good.
Yeah,
good
it did for me. Real quickly, has there been someone that has been impactful in your life, and what impact did they have?
Yeah, well, obviously, growing up, I had a children's pastor that was phenomenal, and probably the reason I did children's ministry for over 20 years now, just the way that he approached kids and didn't treat them as kids, but treated them as people, and said, that he always had that thing, become like a child. The Bible talks about you had to become like a child before you can enter the heaven kingdom. And so for me, it was one of those things, just really seeing someone that doesn't take a youth and say, you're little, sit in the background, don't do anything, don't be a part, just sit here, be quiet, and listen to us. That really challenged his kids to get involved in ministry and be a part of witnessing to the world. And obviously, it led to where I'm sitting today of 20 years of children's ministry and now doing all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, there's never an accident on the people that God brings in our path.
There's not. So, speaking of impactful things, have you ever is there a Bible study that's really ever jumped out that just like you did a study and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this was life-changing?
There was. It was actually a book study, and the author's name is Gordon MacDonald, and the book was Ordering Your Private World. And it was all about making sure that the strength on the inside was stable enough to withhold the pressure coming from the outside. And he talked about that our life can sometimes look like a sinkhole, to where when a sinkhole develops in the earth, it is because the erosion that takes place under the surface that has gone unnoticed gives way under the weight that is on top of the surface. And in ministry, that is the case so many times, that we can get so busy doing stuff and doing the things for God that we forget that we must have that intimacy with God to be able to give us the strength on the inside to withstand the pressure on the outside, because the pressure continues to come. I mean, there's always going to be pressure. There is never going to be a time that we're absent from pressure. But if we will stay connected with Jesus And if we will stay connected with what God is doing, then we are strong enough to be able to withstand those things that God brings our way. Transform my life.
Boy, it's always fun to watch God drop
Yeah.
people and things in our life that
Absolutely.
you can look back and go, that was a moment that changed and shifted my ideas.
Absolutely.
Love how God does that.
I do too. God bless you guys for joining us today. Don't forget, 2 services this coming Sunday. Pray for these guys as they're flying out here in a little while to go to Uganda.